Matt, last year, as you're aware, losing to Florida State in Orlando in the season opener, and LSU had a chance to bust that game open in the first half. Now, there's a guy who is returning to USC, not to be a football coach, but to be a professor. And that guy, Pete Carroll, is fond of saying, can you win in the first quarter? No. Can you win in the second quarter? No. Like he liked the idea of finishing in the fourth quarter. But again, LSU really hurt itself by not maxing out in that first half when it outplayed Florida State. So how much is that memory informing how LSU is getting at this game and how you think the coaching staff is going to play this game? Because some people will say you play the first half to set up the second. Others will say we got to just punch him in the mouth early. That's our best route. Like I think USC's best chance is to get up 14-0 and force LSU into a pass-only mode and then turn the guys loose with the pass rush. Like I don't think USC should try to play a four-quarter game. Although I will say, like if this coaching staff is as good as USC fans think it is, then halftime adjustments could work in USC's favor. But again, the best path for USC is to strike early. How's LSU thinking about this? Is it also get that big early lead, get that first jab, or do you think that with the uncertainties on the roster, it's in LSU's best interest to create a four-quarter game, test USC's endurance, test USC's ability to play consistent defense in perhaps a more ball control-oriented game, the kind of game that we saw Florida State and Georgia Tech play in the season opener? How do you think the LSU staff is approaching this game? How do you think Brian Kelly and his brain trust want to get at USC on Sunday?
Yeah, when Brian Kelly was talking about his offense last week, and so this was the last media availability we had with Brian in fall camp. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but he said, we're going to do the things we do well. We're going to run the football. We're going to take our shots, and we're going to get the ball to our players in space. But he led with running the football. And I think when you look at what Brian Kelly has been throughout his career, and you all know this, I mean, you saw his Notre Dame teams for a decade, right? He was built around big offensive lines, not great quarterback play, big offensive lines, the ability to run the football, tight ends. I think that's what he would like to see. But when you have a player like Jaden Daniels, if you don't maximize him, you're stupid. I mean, so they played to Jaden's strengths, and they led the country in total and scoring offense last year, and he won a Heisman Trophy, and he was incredible. I think listen, if you ask 100 people that cover LSU, that follow LSU, that coach at LSU, that play for LSU, ask 100 people, what's the strength of this team? 100 out of 100 are going to tell you it's that offensive line. But guys, I'm not into hyperbole. I don't do the greatest this, the worst that, the best we've ever seen this. I think this LSU offensive line is probably the most talented line it's ever had, ever.
Ooh.
I mean, LSU has not had a first-round draft pick on the offensive line since Alan Faneca in 1998. That's how long it's been. They've had good lines. Veteran guys who stuck around the program a long time. They've had some guys that have played in the NFL. Some really good players. I mean, Andrew Whitworth, is a potential Hall of Famer. I mean, Lloyd Cushenberry signed a free agent deal to become the highest paid center in the NFL. I mean, there's good players. But Campbell and Emory Jones are going to be first-round picks next year. That's never happened at LSU ever. Two offensive linemen going round one in the first draft in the first round of a draft. Garrett Dellinger, who nobody talks about, is a 4-year starter at left guard. Miles Frazier was a freshman All-American at FIU. Now he's been starting for 3 years at LSU. You have a new center this year, who's an insanely talented young guy, and they're very high on him. This is a long preamble to your long question. But if I'm going to abbreviate it, what I'll say is, if your defense isn't good, shortening the game makes a lot of sense. And if you have an offensive line that's that good, line up and try to run over people, shorten the game, and control the clock. I'm not telling you this is going to be a throwback to Les Miles, guys. I don't think we're seeing too tight a fullback 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I think those days of the power, the toss dive and the power, like, that's gone forever, hopefully. But I do think this is a team that's going to try to protect its defense by shortening the game, by running the football effectively behind a really, really dominant offensive line.
That's a good segue. So if they're shortening the game, reducing the amount of drives, the way both teams match up, it's going to come down to the end. And usually if you have a football game, it's a tight game coming down to the end, it's going to come down to your quarterback generally. And I just wanted you talked about Nussmeier. He had that great bowl game, similar situation as Miller Moss. What are his strengths? So if you had to look, just break him down as a quarterback, and you wanted to look at him and see what his strengths are and what his weaknesses are, what would we say his number one strength is and what his number one weakness is?
The weakness is easier to list than the number one strength. The weakness is decision making, because he will be careless with the football. He has been in his career. Let me say it that way. And Brian Kelly's used this analogy all offseason where he said it wasn't his car. He's used like a rental car analogy to say, when Garrett was in the game, that you were up big or whatever, and it didn't really matter. He was trying to force something or make a play. Now, like, it's his car. It's his offense, and he's going to take care of it. That's fine to say at SEC Media Days in July. It's different to see it in September in Las Vegas, Allegiant Stadium, when USC is on the other side of the field. So we all need to see that. Like, I need to see that manifest to really believe it. The strengths are everything else. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's got the size. He can make every NFL throw. He's the son of a coach. He's got a high football IQ. He's got great confidence, borderline athletic arrogance, which I think is really good for a quarterback when you believe you're the best guy out there. I mean, he checks all those boxes. Same as Miller Moss. They're very similar in that respect. We just have to see what Garrett looks like over 4 quarters and a 12-game season. It's just the unknown of that. And if he can protect the football, then I think they could be a really good offense. But where LSU will get in trouble is if you see SC come on a rush and Garrett backpedals, and then all of a sudden now he's rolling out and he throws across his body back to the middle of the field. That's where you can see Garrett get in trouble. Guys, I'll give you an example. So we get unprecedented access, man. It's none that I've ever seen. Like, Kelly lets us watch full practices, we watch scrimmages, we watch full team periods, and they were running a 2-minute drill, 11 on 11, full tackle, and Nussmeier just boom, 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 4 plays. They go from their own 30 to the plus 31, and in 4 plays, just right down the field. And then the defense brings a safety blitz, and Nuss starts backpedaling and rolling right, and he tried to fire it toward the sideline, maybe a throwaway, but he just didn't get it all the way out of bounds, and a cornerback sort of ranged over, made the interception, toe tap, and that's a turnover. We saw another drive earlier in camp when, same thing, boom, 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 right down the field. They get inside the 10-yard line. There's pressure, coverage. He's tapping the football, and instead of just throwing it out the back of the end zone, he tried to force it in a tight window, and the route got jumped, and Ashton Stamps came up with an interception. Those are the types of plays that if Garrett Nussmeier can say, all right, I'm throw through the back of the end zone, live to play another down, I think this offense will be really good. But where they will hit speed bumps is if he does not protect the football. And guys, I just have to see it to believe it.
Matt Moscona, ESPN Radio, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, throughout Louisiana. And of course, it's LouisianaSports.net is the new venture you got to check out. This spread was a full touchdown for much of the offseason. I saw 4.5 recently. I think that's on the low end, but maybe it is a full, 4.5 across the board. Is that a football judgment of LSU and things that have progressed through the offseason, or just simply a realization that there's not a whole lot separating these two football teams?
I think all summer it was 6.5. And last Wednesday, there was clearly a bunch of sharp money that got dumped on USC because it dropped to 4, and I think it's leveled at 4.5 right now. And I still see value in that if you're a bettor. This could be a 28-28 game in the fourth quarter, and LSU or SC scores and wins by a touchdown. I mean, I could see it like that, but I don't know that I see either team running away with this game. They're just so similar, that guys, I guess there's always the possibility that you could throw up on yourselves and turn it over 4 times, and it just gets away from you. That's what happened at the end. I think maybe Matt mentioned it. That's what happened at the end of the game last year against Florida State. I mean, LSU, that was a 1-score game going in the fourth quarter. LSU had the ball around midfield, and Daniels threw a deep ball down the left sideline to Malik Neighbors. He slipped. It got intercepted. Florida State scored quickly, and then the avalanche happened in the fourth quarter. But, I mean, Mark, I'm not a professional handicapper. I love this sports bet. I'm certainly not a professional, so I can't explain line movement, except that clearly there's smart people who thought there was value in taking SC and a touchdown, which I don't disagree. I don't disagree with them. I think 4.5 is good value in this game too. I mean, I think we could very well be in line for a 34-31 type game, 34-30 type game, something like that. I don't know what the total is, but I'm inclined to think the over probably is a good bet, unless if LSU can do what we talked about a bit ago, which is control the line and shorten the game.
Matt, Tim, anything else?
Yeah, so Matt, you know as well as I do that one of the new things in college football this year is helmet communication. The offensive play caller can communicate to the quarterback until the snap or until 15 seconds on the play clock, whichever happens first. Anything that Brian Kelly and his offensive staff have said about how they intend to utilize this unique new component, how that might affect the tempo at which LSU operates, how LSU's offense tries to progress on the field, like how much huddling is there going to be? How much do you think this new component is going to affect just the general process, the operational process for the LSU offense this season?
Probably not much. What was interesting, the most interesting thing was when we had a chance to talk to LSU's OC Joe Sloan. He told us what they have done is prepare for what probably feels like an inevitability, guys, of the helmet comm going down. So they'll be in team, and then they'll say, all right, helmet comm is down for the next 4 plays. And so now they have to revert to hand signals for everything. So I think repping that's probably, it's probably why they're paid a lot of money, because they think of everything that could go wrong. And I think similar, Garrett and Miller Moss are probably similar in this respect, in that they're veteran quarterbacks. Their whole career, they've dealt with hand signals from the sideline. So even if the helmet comm goes down, the ability to quickly revert to the hand signals probably, I think, is an easier hurdle for teams with a veteran quarterback who've done it than maybe if you're playing a young guy, maybe a first-time starter, I think maybe someone like Jackson Arnold, right? A second-year guy at Oklahoma who's a 5-star, came in last year. Well, they showed Dylan Gabriel the door to play the young guy. Well, how does the young guy deal with that for the first time? I think some of those variables are more interesting, maybe for teams with younger quarterbacks, but for teams with veteran quarterbacks, I'm really not sure that it's a massive difference. I love it. I mean, I think we should use technology when we can, but I'm not sure that it changes significantly the processes.
We knew a lot about Blake Baker. Well, a lot of people know Blake, but let's talk about Joe Sloan. Would you say it's fair to give a lot of the credit for the offense last year, development of Daniels, on Joe Sloan? And what do you see the major differences in the offense this year compared to having Mike Denbrock in charge of the offense?
Yeah, So Sloan was the quarterback's coach and absolutely deserves credit for, I think, developing Jaden, for his accuracy. When he got on campus, the big knock on Jaden Daniels was accuracy. And boy, did he fix that. So I think Joe deserves a lot of credit. For the offense as a whole, that was Mike Denbrock. Mike is he was a Broyles finalist last year and deserved every bit of credit and accolade he's got. Just a smart guy who knows how to sequence a game, who's called so many games, and knows how to rely on what his team does well. I think Mike Denbrock was just fantastic last year, and that's a significant loss. I think it was a huge gain for Notre Dame and a significant loss for LSU. But Joe kind of reminds me of maybe what Lincoln Riley was at East Carolina. You know, a guy young, not as young. Joe's 40. I think Joe's 40. Lincoln was what was he, guys? 32 33 when Bob Stoops hired him. I mean, he was somewhere like that. I mean, he was early 30s when Bob Stoops hired him. And I think it's comparable. It's a guy that's called plays, is young, is more of a modern offense. I call it my native language theory. It's guys that came up that this is the only offensive language they speak is the RPO, the 7-on-7, the hurry up, no huddle. Joe's going to be just fine. The differences we see in the offense, I don't think necessarily are differences between Mike Denbrock and Joe Sloan. I think the differences in the offense are the differences of not having a quarterback capable of running for 1,100 yards and 8 yards a carry. I think that's the biggest difference we'll see in the offense.
Which I still can't get over. I've seen those numbers a zillion times, and I still can't get over him taking on that offense to that extreme. It's crazy.
History is going to be kind to Jaden Daniels. The further removed we get and the more we look back at what he did last year, people are going to go, he ran for what? He threw what? It was incredible to watch it unfold last year. I mean, 40 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Just it was silly. He was something to see.
Take the average LSU defense from the last 20 years, put it on this team of 2023, and then let them go 11-1 or whatever it would have been. And then everybody's watching Jaden Daniels in November. More people than actually were. Yeah.
It will be a forever what if. You had one of the all-time college football seasons by a quarterback, and you had literally guys, we talked about it last time, it was statistically the worst defense in LSU history. I mean, even what Mark, you just said, take the average of the defenses of the last decade, and that's a college football playoff team.
Yeah. Or take like the 5th worst LSU defense of the last 20 years, maybe.
I'd have to think of what that was, but
whatever that.
Probably 2009, and it would probably play. Yeah.
Great stuff. Matt Moscona, ESPN Radio, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, all through Louisiana. After further review, so that's Matt's show Monday through Friday. It's 4 to 7 Eastern, 3 to 6 Central. Best way people can find your daily show.
We're on YouTube. So if you want to stream audio, you can. 104.5 ESPN. We have the mobile app. You can stream audio, or you can watch us on YouTube. Just search 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Our full 10 hours a day of local content is streamed there. So easy to find us, YouTube or podcast or our mobile app.
If you're just joining us, folks, LouisianaSports.net. What's that? Well, check it out. It's a great venture by Matt that just hit the scene here recently that he has poured his heart and soul into. And I know Matt well enough to know if that's the case, then it's worth checking out for sure. Matt, enjoy the trip. Enjoy the game. Appreciate you being here, man.
Guys, LSU hasn't won an opener since Joe Burrow in 2019. I hope I enjoy the game, Mark. Damn it, I deserve to enjoy this game after the last 4 years. I hope y'all have a great time, but you have a miserable time at the game. I need this more than LSU needs this.
I need to exercise that Pac-12 championship game at Allegiant Stadium, so I'm there for my own sort of seance or resurrection of spirit or whatever it's going to be. Because I hope to see you there. Great job as always, Matt. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Tim, I had money on SC in that game too, so I'd like a little payback for that one.